Are you over 70 and still driving in the UK? Then you need to hear this right now because everything is about to change. The UK Parliament and House of Lords have just approved a groundbreaking new law that will fundamentally alter how senior drivers maintain their licenses, and the DVLA is already preparing to roll out mandatory license reviews starting this November. If you're a senior driver or have elderly relatives on the road, the next few minutes could save you from losing your driving independence entirely. Before we dive into the critical details you absolutely need to know, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we're covering all the latest DVLA updates, driving law changes, and essential information for UK drivers. You don't want to miss what's coming next. So let's talk about what's actually happening here because there's been a lot of confusion and misinformation floating around. The new senior driving law that's been approved represents the most significant change to elderly driver regulations in decades. Unlike the current system where drivers simply renew their licenses at 70 and then every 3 years after that by filling out a form, the new legislation introduces a comprehensive review process that will actually assess whether senior drivers are fit to remain on the roads. This isn't just about ticking boxes anymore. The DVLA will now have the authority to require medical assessments, cognitive function tests, and in some cases, practical driving evaluations for drivers over a certain age threshold. Now, you might be wondering why this change is happening at all. The statistics are actually quite sobering. Road safety data from the past 5 years shows a concerning trend in accidents involving elderly drivers, particularly those over 75. While senior drivers are generally more careful and law-abiding than younger age groups, there's been an undeniable increase in incidents related to slower reaction times, medical conditions affecting driving ability, and age-related cognitive decline. The government has been under pressure from road safety campaigners, police forces, and even insurance companies to introduce stricter oversight. At the same time, they've had to balance this against the rights of elderly people to maintain their independence and mobility. This new law is the compromise that's emerged from years of debate and consultation. Here's what the new license review process will actually involve. Starting in November, when senior drivers reach their renewal date, they'll receive a much more detailed questionnaire from the DVLA. This won't just ask about your general health like the current form does. Instead, you'll need to provide specific information about any medical conditions you've been diagnosed with in the past 3 years, any medications you're taking that could affect your driving, and whether you've had any incidents or near misses on the road. The DVLA will cross-reference this information with GP records, and yes, they now have the legal authority to do this under the new legislation. If any red flags come up, you'll be called for a medical assessment with a DVLA-approved doctor. The medical assessment itself will be far more rigorous than anything we've seen before. It won't just be a quick chat about your health. Doctors will conduct vision tests that go beyond the standard number plate reading, checking for conditions like glaucoma, cataracts, and macular degeneration that might not be immediately obvious but can seriously impair driving ability. They'll assess your mobility and flexibility, making sure you can turn your head to check blind spots and react quickly to unexpected situations. There will be questions about your mental health and cognitive function, looking for early signs of dementia or other conditions that affect judgment and decision-making. And perhaps most importantly, they'll review any medications you're taking because many common prescriptions for older adults can cause drowsiness, dizziness, or slower reaction times. But it doesn't stop there. Depending on the results of your medical assessment, you might be required to take a cognitive function test. This is completely new territory for UK driving regulations. The test will evaluate your memory, attention span, ability to process information quickly, and decision-making skills. Think of it as similar to the theory test but specifically designed to identify age-related cognitive decline that could make you a danger on the road. The government has been working with neurologists and driving safety experts to develop these tests, and they are supposedly designed to be fair and not discriminate against older people simply because they are older. However, many senior driver advocacy groups have expressed concerns that these tests might be too stringent and could unfairly penalize people who are perfectly capable of driving safely. Now here's where it gets really serious. If you fail either the medical assessment or the cognitive function test, or if the DVLA has significant concerns about your ability to drive safely, you'll be required to take a practical driving assessment. This isn't your standard driving test. It's a comprehensive evaluation conducted by specially trained examiners who understand the unique challenges facing elderly drivers. They'll take you out on real roads, including motorways if you still drive on them, and assess everything from your observation and anticipation to your ability to handle complex junctions and deal with unexpected situations. The pass rate for these assessments is expected to be lower than for standard driving tests because the threshold for what's considered safe is much higher when you're being reassessed rather than tested for the first time. What happens if you don't pass these assessments? This is what everyone's worried about, and understandably so. If you fail any part of the review process and can't demonstrate that you're fit to drive, your license will be revoked. Not suspended, revoked. You'll lose your legal right to drive on UK roads. Now, there is an appeals process built into the new legislation, and you can request a second assessment if you believe the first one was unfair or if your circumstances have changed. But the burden of proof will be on you to demonstrate that you're safe to drive, not on the DVLA to prove that you're not. This is a fundamental shift in how the system works. The financial implications are also something you need to consider. While the initial license review questionnaire will be free, if you're required to undergo medical assessments, cognitive tests, or practical evaluations, you'll be expected to pay fees. The government hasn't announced the exact costs yet, but industry insiders are suggesting the full assessment process could cost anywhere from £200 to £500. That's a significant expense for pensioners on fixed incomes, and there's currently no provision for financial assistance or waivers for those who can't afford it. So what should you do to prepare for these changes? First and foremost, be proactive about your health. If you have any medical conditions that could affect your driving, make sure they are being properly managed and that you're having regular checkups with your GP. If you're taking medications, have a conversation with your doctor about whether they could be impacting your ability to drive safely. Consider having an honest conversation with family members about your driving. Sometimes our loved ones notice changes in our abilities before we do, and their observations could help you address potential issues before they become serious problems during an official assessment. You might also want to consider taking a voluntary driving assessment before the mandatory reviews begin. Several organizations offer these, and they can give you a realistic picture of where you stand and what you might need to work on. The new law officially comes into effect in November, but the DVLA has indicated that it will be rolled out gradually. Priority will be given to drivers over 80, then those between 75 and 80, and finally those between 70 and 75. If you're approaching any of these age milestones, expect to be in the first waves of reviews. Make sure your contact details are up to date with the DVLA so you don't miss any correspondence about your review. Missing deadlines or failing to respond to DVLA requests could result in automatic license suspension, and you don't want that to happen simply because a letter went astray. It's also worth noting that this law has sparked considerable debate across the country. Supporters argue it's long overdue and will make our roads safer for everyone. Opponents claim it's discriminatory against elderly people and will rob thousands of seniors of their independence and quality of life. Whatever your personal view, the reality is that this law has been passed, and it's coming into effect very soon. The best thing you can do is understand what's required, prepare yourself accordingly, and approach the process with honesty and realism about your own capabilities. Remember, driving is a privilege, not a right, and that privilege comes with responsibilities. If you've been driving safely for decades, these new assessments might feel like an insult or an unnecessary hurdle, but they are designed to protect you as much as other road users. Nobody wants to be the person who causes a serious accident because they were too proud or stubborn to acknowledge that their abilities had declined. At the same time, if you're still a safe and capable driver, these assessments should confirm that, and you'll be able to continue driving with confidence. Stay informed, stay prepared, and most importantly, stay safe on our roads.